Brent, you go into the spring looking, you lost quite a bit of your wide receiver production, graduation, whatever. You just told us about a couple of tight ends are off. Talk about your receiving core going into spring and how those guys, who you expect to develop and come on for you.
Yeah, so a couple of them were guys that were freshmen. Nick Anderson, was banged up most of the year last year. Jaden Gibson was still just really tall and skinny and learning how to have the right mindset every day. J.J. Hester is a young player still. He came in from Missouri and was hurt, had surgery and sat out all the year. Even Gavin Freeman, who we created a role for him, he didn't come in till late. So those are guys there, just to name a few, and Andrew Anthony as another newcomer, really guys that weren't in the competition last year for those reasons I just said. And so I think we're really excited about that group of guys. If you went down each one of them, what you loved about them, and take up everybody's time, but we did lose, quite a bit of our production from a receiving standpoint, but I really love that group of guys. In addition to, other guys that are returning that have played, Farouk and Drake in particular, as guys that, that we know can play winning football. And then we have a couple of signees that'll be coming in sometime in the first part of June that we also feel will be able to jump into the mix and hopefully help us as well. Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of factors last fall, but statistically the defense for you dropped off from some years at Clemson and then even in your first run here as a defensive coordinator. Whether it's personnel or time, and we're obviously far off from playing real games, but what makes you confident, what elements are you confident about your defense this year and improving?
Yeah, just feel like foundationally we set a very clear vision of what the standards are, what the expectations are. Certainly we spend a lot of time at developing guys that are returning. So the returning experience is an advantage over what we had, a year ago. Everybody was new. Again, I really feel like through recruiting we've strengthened our roster positionally, particularly in the secondary. That's probably where I feel like we made the most improvement, where you have based on what you've seen up to this point in time, and you still got to go prove it at every position across the board, but I really feel like, okay, we're better in the secondary, and we've added more bodies at other places. A number of the linebackers aren't here yet, but I really believe the front seven, the closer you get to the ball, the harder it is to play, and we'll find out, where we're at from that standpoint. But I've loved how everybody's worked. But I feel really good about the guys that we've added to the secondary, which is a place we really needed to improve. I think we had 8 secondary guys, but the biggest thing is year 2. I've always seen improvement and expect marked improvement. Learning how not to lose to Oklahoma, the fundamentals and the improvement there, the physical improvement from a strength and conditioning standpoint, and then the knowledge, the intimate knowledge that you got to have so that you can play fast, you can play sure of yourself, you can play with great fundamentals and technique, play aggressive within the scheme because of your sureness. And then we have improved through recruiting, as I said earlier, the football intelligence of this group of guys, the instincts of this group of guys is there, and so those are all things foundationally that it takes to be a good defense. So if we can, from an efficiency standpoint, and we were poor in a lot of areas, but we defended the most possessions in all of college football. So we got to be more efficient in getting off the field, and then we got to be more efficient at on both sides of the ball of complimenting, one another, not compensating, for one another. And, a good football team is going to complement one another. And so we got to do our part with the improvement, but I love the leadership, the hunger, the edge, the accountability, the awareness, all those things. That's how you grow and improve. And the improvement process, it can be very, very discouraging. And but foundational, I know we have the right foundation, and then I believe in the guys that are in that locker room, and then what I've seen, and again, I really expect wherever we are today, by the time April 22nd gets here, that we're going to see improvement. And I just use years and years of experience. Never happens fast enough. And wherever we are by the end of next season, it still ain't going to be good enough. And I want our guys, the best of the best, are never satisfied. But I expect us to be on another planet defensively. Everybody else can talk about, projection of rankings and all those types of things. I just want to see improvement in all the basics, the fundamentals. Our guys played with good effort last year. We just didn't play or coach well enough in a lot of areas. And again, we got to continue to improve with our fundamentals, our techniques, our understanding, and again, the physicality that it takes to win and win with great defense. And at the point of attack, we weren't very good last year. And, we got bullied around and beat up too much, whether it was outside on perimeter screens or at the point of attack on a quarterback counter. And got knocked off the ball and got ran through and just played bad defense. And if we put it on the field, it means we coached it. So we got to get better, coaches and players. But I really like the hunger and the toughness that these guys have attacked the out of season and the edge that they have going in to spring ball. And I think it takes those things first. You asked me why I believe that we're going to be better, and that's why.
Yeah, Brent, looking at the running back room, losing Eric Gray, not just production, leadership, and that's such a young room. How do you try to balance that? You need to see more from Gavin, Javonte, and Marcus, but you also don't want to put too much on them to where they might get hurt throughout spring.
Yeah, I mean, I like the group of running backs that we have. We lost half of our rushing yards. I think we have 32% of our receiving yards coming back. We have 50% of our rushing yards coming back. So it's a little better than you'd probably think. Eric was fantastic, but remember, that was his first year starting. And everybody wondered going into last year, too, how are we going to replace Kennedy Brooks? And Eric really stepped up. He had his opportunity and really, stepped up and was a great leader. Wasn't real vocal, but he showed up and acted like a pro every day by his consistency and his toughness, had a great mentality, a willingness to go to work every day, responded to good, hard, tough coaching that DeMarco will give those guys. And I love our running backs. I really feel good about where we're at. They need to continue to improve, so you have to practice, and guys get bumps and bruises. That's part of the game. Nobody likes it, but that is, a byproduct of developing your team. And, you can't practice in a soft way and expect to play, hard, tough, physical way. So that's all going to be part of it on the journey. But it's a really good, strong group of guys that I think are really looking forward to having their opportunity to being the guy. But I think for us to be at our best, we're going to have good competitive depth. I believe that we have that. That'll be determined. And I like our leadership. These are guys that are accountable. DeMarco hasn't recruited guys that aren't accountable. And that's, the challenge for everybody, on staff is to find guys that, that value hard work, that value education, that value being a great teammate, that value, going through something, having to overcome something, having to fight through something. They value that they have a very clear vision, all the tough things that it takes to be great. And, as we say all the time, running towards the hard, that's a part of it, and having some failure along the way. So these are good, tough, mentally and physically players that we're talking about at the running back position. And again, the test of time will tell, but I really believe that Eric, if he did anything, he did a great job of showing guys how to lead. And, Javonte and Gavin being guys that are returning, along with Marcus Major, who we're going to get back here to start things up, all have the right mindset to continue to do what Eric did for us last year.
You mentioned the influx not going to be the norm, but how much different is that going to look this spring as opposed to last spring, considering that every phase was new for you guys with the coaching staff coming in?
Yeah, I mean, having the returners, that's what you're alluding to, the returners, yeah, It's a lot different. I mean, you still go all the way back to the basics of program installation, which we've been doing for the last few months. How you do what you do, it's, everybody needs to always be reminded of what those are. Again, what your standards are, what your values are, what your expectations are of your guys. But there's not as much newness to all of it, and so that's been fun. Guys are able to finish the end of your sentences, both in the meeting room and just talking about, again, program installation. So it's going to look a lot different. Guys know how we practice, how we stretch, what we do after we stretch, all of those things, how we practice, in shells as opposed to, being out of pads. And so there's the processes and the procedures aren't as new for as many guys, but you still can't take any of it for granted when you have, again, 20, 5+ new guys. You got to assume that none of them know what to do. But it's going to be, getting to the end point, it's going to be a lot easier in a lot of ways.
Second row, right to the front.
Yeah, you mentioned the guys maybe be able to complete your sentences and such, but this is your second year. Obviously, you've had a year to do this now. Is there anything different that you'll be doing in terms of the way you run the spring based on your year of experience as a head coach? Or maybe anything different that you'll be looking for out of the spring based on your experience?
Yeah, I mean, you're always developing, mindset. We spend a lot of time on doing that. You're always going to do that. Just being more efficient, probably all the way around. You're always looking at ways to tweak things, new drills to do, how you incorporate different parts of the practice, where they all lie, and so you're always looking at ways to be better that way. So there's some subtle changes, both in how you meet and how you walk through and how you actually practice. But the meat and potatoes of it will remain the same, and having the right kind of balance on and off the field will remain the same as well.
Come back over here to Jesse.
Brent, you've talked about how much you like the versatility of this incoming class, particularly on defense, maybe making an impact on different positions. Just when you have this spring period, how much is the emphasis, especially with some of these young guys, at getting them different looks at different positions, or how much is it maybe just getting them acclimated and adjusted to college? Well,
That's a good point. You don't want to overload guys as they're trying to transition. There's a delicate balance, and so if you are doing it, you're typically doing it with guys that you really feel like, for whatever reason, their maturity, their mental capacity, their skill set, all align with, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit more homework to handle. And if you do that, and you have to be very conscientious and just paying attention to how are they handling that. And if the load's too much, be willing to pull back. And but for us as a defense, we need to find out more about some guys in their versatility to find out, whether it's sub packages or just maybe even competing for a starting position. And some guys might have the opportunity to win a job at multiple spots. So we've identified who we think might be. That'll end up changing by the end of the spring to some point, some degree. We might discover somebody that we feel like, hey, we need to maybe look at them at more than just one position. But this is an important time of the year where you can't remanufacture. You don't have to play games right now. So the ones that you want to find out, hopefully they can be overloaded from a rep count standpoint, because you just can't remanufacture reps. So the reps that you do right now are critical in trying to build a foundation. Maybe it's for discovery on your behalf, or for building up their foundation going into next fall. When you can't have that same philosophy during the fall, just because you want guys to be able to be fresh and what have you. So this is what that time of the year is for, without question. And we'll see a little bit of a handful of guys that we're really anxious to see them at a couple different spots.
Coach, looks like we got one more question in the back left.
Coach Venables, with spring ball on the way, can you speak on that special feeling that Team 129 has?
Well, what I love about Team 129 is they love to work, and it's a group of guys that have fun. We had as fun a competition and balance the competition. I told the guys the offense pulled out way out in front in our competitions the first half of winter conditioning, and then the second half the defense came out of nowhere and got it all the way to our very last competition, and we tied, which I don't know, I've going on 28, 29 years if I've ever been there. So what I see is competitive balance, competitive stamina, and again, great humility and a willingness to go to work. Hopefully that'll bode well on the field.
Absolutely. Now, one more question. What's your favorite animal and why?
My favorite animal, Danny Stutsman is my favorite animal. And he's my favorite animal because that man knows where the football is. He knows how to find the ball. So there's your affirmation for the day. Danny needs a little extra attention, everybody. Just so everybody, if you all weren't aware. So, yeah, good to see you, Danny.
For more information, you can visit TulsaWorld.com.